Hello and welcome to the living room, my jam area. I thought it would be interesting, mainly for me, for posterity's sake. You know, I change my rig up every few years. It gets kind of turned around and switched around. So this is my rig rundown.
Tell us about your guitars.
Well, the first one I'll show is my Strat. It's American Standard. I got this used in about 1992. I think it is a 92. Now, I absolutely love this guitar. It's an American Strat. I mean, what more can you say? I love this thing.
Have you done any modifications to that guitar?
Well, when I got it, I had a synth pickup, a GK2 on here. I still have the synth in the pickup, but I'm not using it anymore. They're stock pickups. Funny thing, Adrian Belew signed this guitar, and I wanted to preserve that, so I removed the pickguard where he had signed it in the front. And for Christmas, someone gave me this mirror pickguard. So that's what I got on there now, and I put black pickup covers on it, along with the black knobs and the switch tip. Then I did a kill switch too. A little while, a few years into this, I used to play this guitar a lot. Actually, I played bass with the synth on like about a third of the set. But this cover band I was in. Anyway, I was breaking like the G string and it wasn't staying in tune as much as I wanted it to. So I got graphite saddles and a graphite nut and a graphite string tree. And also I put some locking tuners on. Other than that, it's all stock. And I absolutely love the neck. I love everything about this guitar, but especially the neck. The way it plays, the sides of the neck, how smooth it is. Just a fantastic instrument. Now I do have like an Ibanez RD330 DX, I think it is, the sharp tooth, the white one. And I like that too. Now that, you know, it really stays in tune. It sounds great, but I like single coils, I really do. Now this guitar, this is my new favorite instrument. I had always wanted a guitar with a sustainer, and this showed up on Craigslist for $225 with a beautiful hard shell case. So immediately I thought, well, something's got to be really wrong with it, you know. Either that or it's stolen. But turns out it must be stolen because it's an excellent instrument. It's got the sustainer here. You pull the knob out and it goes into an octave mode. Crazy sustainiac. The only thing I don't like is I miss my single coils. It's got humbuckers, but it sounds fantastic. Locking nuts. You never have to tune this guitar. The tremolo is excellent on it. Just a fantastic instrument. I put these on an Allen key holder because we play remote at the woods. I made these battery amps for my family band. Here at home we use headphones. I got Superlux HD 330. And then here's where, that's where the 9-volt battery is supposed to go to power the sustainer and their active pickups. So.
Well, how long does the 9-volt battery last?
Well, that's funny. What I've read is a 9-volt will start petering out on the sustainer end of things after about 20 minutes of sustainer use. Now, that's not to say that, you know, you could shut the sustainer off and play for a year before that battery would die, but the sustainer really eats up batteries. So I modified this for a 2.1, like an inline style 2.1 millimeter DC jack. And so I have a custom cable. It was a mic cord, and the third wire I run the 9 volts through. And here's a little 2.1 hanging off of here, a 90. You get the same thing on the other end, and there's like a Belkin power supply. It's like a backup. They came with the sealed lead acid batteries that we run in our battery amps for the woods. I got 9 of those. But I got all these extra power supplies, so they put out like 12 volts. I just built a 7809 voltage regulator, put it in a little pill bottle, and that runs, there's a jack here that plugs into the other end of this cable that feeds the 9 volts up to the guitar. Now when we're at the woods, I use this, it's a stretchy strap. If you don't have one of these, you gotta get yourself a stretchy strap. Treat yourself. Now this is a 9.6 volt remote control car battery. It's a nickel metal hydrate, so it's easy to charge. And there's a fuse in here. But here's the, for the remote, I can just use the battery, you know. And I can use that cable. The amp puts out 9.6 volts, so you get a little bit of whine on some of the high gain patches, just a little bit. You do not hear it unless you're dead silent. It's barely anything, so I mean, I could use it, but kind of a weenie when it comes to things like whine, so.
So it looks like you have a pretty elaborate setup for your signal chain there. Would you like to walk us through it?
So, the turd switch, that turns on my old backwards box. Now this red one, this changes patches in amplitude on my virtual rig and the computer. The Morley-Wah, now that's where my signal chain starts. It looks modded because of the blue LED, but it's stock. This is a General Guitar Gadgets PCB for a Dynacomp. It's an old compressor. The Dynacomp goes into this, which is, it's a crybaby that serves as a fixed wah with this control. This control is like a body mod for when you're in this mode. It's like a pulse wah. I made a dual blinky LED circuit with a cadmium sulfide cell, a photo eye that replaces this pot. When you hit this switch, it engages either mode, where you can either have it set at a fixed wah or this pulse wah. And this is like a body switch for how the pulse wah reacts for the sweep. Thank you very much to Dino Digituti for those crybaby PCBs. Next up, we've got, this is a DOD 250 with a diode mod. It either has hard or soft clipping, and it's circa 1978 op amp in there. I got that op amp out of the dumpster at the arcade place. Praise the Lord. This is a Fox Tone Machine clone, and it has this is stock, this is modded, although even in stock it's a little bit modded, but it's capacitor switching to tame it because it was a little bit trebly, a little bit crazy. This is a fuzz factory with germanium transistors from Elbez, from I forget the guy's name, but check out my germanium transistor, my fuzz factory demo on YouTube if you're looking for a set of transistors or germanium transistors. This guy on eBay sells them for a very, very reasonable price, and they're the real deal. Now, this DF7 distortion factory, I really like the MT2, the Boss Metal Zone setting on it. It has a sweepable mid 3-band EQ, and on top of that, there's two outputs. There's an amp output and a speaker sim mixer outlet. So I use that mixer outlet with the cab sim when I run through my rack, because the ass end of my rig has two options. You either go with the computer for a virtual rig, or you go through the rack. So I manually switch over when I go through my rack. Just kind of, you know, little cab sim goes a long way when you're going line in with headphones. Stock Electric Mistress, absolutely love this pedal. It's not an original, it's a reissue, but it comes with the chorus. The locked flange, the non-modulating mode is fantastic. Just a really wonderful, rich flanger with the chorus option. Now this CE2, it's very old. I'm not sure if this is Japanese, but I paid $1 for it at a garage sale. These two old hillbilly ladies with real long, skinny cigarettes. And I said, how much you want for this thing? And the lady goes, I don't know what it is. How about $1? So I threw $1 at her and took off, hightailing it out of the driveway. Her old man came whipping around the corner out of the garage and started like kind of jog chasing me down the driveway, and I literally ran. But CE2, absolutely wonderful little device from Boss. Now here we have this is a modded ugly face, and I'm really digging what this thing does. It kind of would be nice if it didn't have the fuzz aspect to it, but hey, you know, more fuzzy goodness. Is that a bad thing? I guess not. I can live with it. Buying EQ, completely stock, way too many LEDs. I like it. What more can I say? I mean, this is kind of a wiener pedal, but I can look down and like if I got any, you know, if I need to fix my hair or make sure there isn't any, you know, cocaine boogers hanging out of my nose. My kids might get upset, you know, I got my little mirror here. Or, you know, I never thought of that. I could chop out my meth lines on that. Now this is a Boss, or what am I talking about? It's a Digitech PDS 1002 delay. I bought one of these when it first came out in, oh my goodness, it was the early 80s. It's like 229 bucks, and I had the 1 second, this is a 2 second model. But my old guitar player plugged his son's remote control car battery. This guy had stolen like a pallet of batteries, and he had adapters too. He had a whole studio, but he decided it was a good day to take his son's rechargeable car battery and plug it into my delay, and fried it. And I didn't find out for about 5 years later when he got his hands on a couple of bottles of wine, then he finally admitted what happened to my delay. But I was crying about that story online, and this dude named Pink Jimmy Photon hooked me up. He sent me this pedal. Now it was fried. It had a bad JFET in it and bad voltage regulator too that I replaced. Now I ended up, I removed the timing resistor and cut in a pot. So it goes a lot longer than 2 seconds. It gets up to around 8 or 9 seconds of delay. It's real dirty when you get up there, but I absolutely love this pedal. Now it looks like I did a true bypass mod. That's because I think there's another bad JFET in here for the sampling the lock switch. This serves as a momentary contact now, which is cool. But if you want to lock it in like it's supposed to be for stock, you got to go ahead and use the DP-DT. So coming out of that pedal board, we go over to pedal board number 2. Inside pedal board number 2, there's an old Radio Shack 12 volt 4 amp power supply that I added two 7809 voltage regulator circuits with the capacitors. Now that power supply is what powers all the 9 volt pedals down here. But actually what's in the secret ingredient to pedal board number 2 is that old bass chorus. Now I don't really run that. Sometimes I do. I turn the speed all the way down, no modulation, like a filtery, toilet paper tubey type sound. But the main purpose is 1 channel in, 2 channels out. So channel 1 splits off and goes up to this rack. Then it goes out to a couple direct boxes and straight into the mixing board stereo, over to the headphone amp, and then out to all the headphones, including my nice new pair of Superlux HD 330 Japanese, excellent cheap headphones. Now, the other channel coming out of this chorus goes to the line 6 guitar port, paid 20 bucks for that used. Then USB over to this computer for amplitude. Now I use the virtual amps, maybe I use a couple other fake pedals in there, but mainly the cabinet simulators. I also use Reaper with the LePou stuff, the LePou amps, and especially the cab simulators. I really like those impulse responses. Going line in, if you got any kind of pedals, especially like fuzz, if you play dirty, and going right into an amp with headphones, it just sounds terrible. So basically, the reason that I've got 2 ass ends on my rig is because of this Lexicon Vortex morphing processor. Inside of this is like 2 stereo pairs of modulation and delay tricks. There's effects in this device that you can't get anywhere else. And on top of that, it morphs between the presets. Here I have an expression pedal. Over here on the floor is the expression pedal for the Vortex. And I just can't get away from this thing. Now the problem is, you have to run this at the tail end of your rig, and it does not like the impedance that I'm getting coming out of the virtual rig. It likes a real, high impedance signal or guitar level signal, whatever that is. Just doesn't sound quite right. And with getting my dirt where I'm getting it with the virtual rig, it gets real complicated, So these are the woes of having a line-in flexible system with headphones when you want to use a real goofy thing like this. So how I handle it is this way. I've got 2 ass ends for my rig. The rack features a stereo DBX compressor gate. There's a modded RDS. This is a modulation delay that I got rid of the timing resistor, so you can get a lot longer. This gets up to almost 9 seconds of delay. Doesn't sound that pretty at 9 seconds, but hey, it's a nice little looper, and for free I wasn't going to complain. Now I got rid of all the 4558 chips in here, and I put TLO72s in there. Now, ooh, look at me. Maybe if I, Burr Brown, yeah, right. Anyway, over here we got a old Boss RRV10 stereo reverb. But before that, the secret ingredient, the old Boss half rack RPS10 reverse pitch shifter. Now the turd switch that we saw in the beginning, that turns on my backwards delay. And as you can see, the mix is set 0 straight sound. It is a delay and set it reverse. When you pick, you gotta wait a second for it to come out. So you gotta play a little ahead. It's a little bit challenging, but I really like that sound. And hey, you know, if you stuck your hand under a lawnmower and only had 2 fingers to fret, you'd probably use a backwards box too. Anyway, back to the virtual rig side of things. Coming out of the guitar port into this XPS 700, this fantastic computer. It's got LEDs on the front too. This thing I paid 29 bucks for it. It retailed for $4 grand. But I'm really digging this Amplitude software here. I got Guitar Rig 5, I'm running Reaper, I got that Le Pou stuff I was talking about, and this little device here, this just lets me know where I'm at volume-wise. It gives me a monitor on my decibels, because all the patches are different. So, you know, I had the meter, I pulled that out of something that I hacked, this old 2-volt meter, and I didn't want to see it go to waste, so I cut in these incandescent bulbs, put a little op-amp circuit in it with a diode rectifier, a diode bridge, because it's a DC meter, it's not a VU meter. But that feeds off, like when I adjust my master levels here, that's reflected in here. And there's a pressure transducer, that's not a speaker inside of there, it's epoxy to this case. So coming out of this computer rig, I go through this line 6 delay, and that's the reverse again, that reverse echo that I like so much, going stereo out to the board. There's input switches on the board between XLR or 1/4 inch. So my kid plays keyboard, I can just tell her go ahead and hit those switches, and I switch over between rack or virtual rig. Now I do have an expression pedal over here. I don't know if you can see this LED here changing rate, as that's the delay time for the backwards box. Mostly 760 milliseconds to 1.6 would be nice. But anyway, this virtual rig, I absolutely love it. I took this old guitar stand here and hacked a mouse pad on top of it so I can reach over there and get it. I got a miniature keyboard here. Now I did order off of eBay. I got a little touchpad thing. It doubles as a mouse and a keyboard, little tiny thing, you know, so I can get rid of that. It's a little large. You know, I'd like to be able to put my beer on tier 1 here. But I'm going through my patch list. I'm like working up patches for our set list, doing custom patches, and I'm absolutely thrilled with the sounds I'm getting out of this Amplitude. It's fantastic software. Now, I did try to come up with a USB hack so I could convert a keyboard into a foot switch. That turned out to be too complicated for me for Windows 7 64-bit. So I took this old Roland FC100, which was RRC, it wasn't MIDI. I hacked it into a MIDI converter. It's just a resistor and a little rewiring and a different jack. And then I can change the patches with the C pedal on Amplitude. I can advance the patch list. Well, I didn't want to take up any room, so I cut in another 1/4 inch jack. This here is the power, because it's modded, I needed a power input. And it's powered off of my regular power supply that everything else runs off of. Now, if you look over here, I've got this USB MIDI Sport 2x2. That goes USB into the computer, and then this Roland goes MIDI into here. But most importantly, this we got this at a flea market. It was foot control from a really old, a tiny little sewing machine. So I cut in a momentary contact foot switch, and that goes over to that C switch inside the Roland. I hacked this in here. So now, long story short, if you take a look at Amplitude, I'm changing these patches, and if you pan over here, you'll see I'm changing these with my foot. Coming back up, get another shot of the computer. So, I'm at the top of the patch bank. So yeah, there we go, going through the patches with my foot. So that's about it. Did I forget anything? Oh yeah, I did. These two jacks here, I can unplug these two. This is the output for the reverse box. I plug these two in here, and that goes up to Barbie's chair here. And then if you pan over to the arcade game, I've got two wireless speakers. And so if I don't feel like putting my headphones on and I wanna like do some patches or monkey around, the headphones make my ears itch and sweat and chiggers start growing in there and lose the high frequency. So I can run through this wireless. I didn't want to run another cable all the way across the house. So that's kind of nice having my monitors. I paid $4 for that wireless setup at Salvation Army, and it worked. Hallelujah. I'm going to probably be setting up another pedal board. This is my wonderful new Debbie Ever US fuzz, and I absolutely love this. I came up with two pieces of music the first day that I played with this. This is a germanium silicon hybrid of a fuzz face. Recently I bought this little reel-to-reel tape deck, and it had 4 germanium transistors in there. So turned out to be the perfect HFE that I was missing. I had bought these NTE, like imitation germaniums, and they didn't sound so hot, but I'm going to be running that fuzz face until I get my charge pump fuzz face going, which is going to happen real soon. This is my custom designed high gain fuzz. It's got a little bit of Velcro, a little bit of nasty attack and release. It's a dual stage bass fuzz with a orange 3mm LED on clipper 1 and a Darlington on stage 2 with a germanium 134A. Absolutely fantastic pedal. Try that sometime. So yeah, what I do is until I get another board set up here to add some more fuzz pedals, I'm just unplugging like, I unplug probably the Fuzz Factory or whatever, and or this, that's on tier 2. I just go ahead and unplug it. Yeah, I got a light under here too. It's funny, this light is incandescent, and I turned it on. I had the fuzz factory on with the germaniums, and the millisecond I turned it on, the heat changed the bias on those transistors, and it started feeding back like instantly. I could not believe it. They go, oh man, those germaniums, they're not temperature sensitive. Yeah, they are. You turn the switch on, boom. I couldn't believe it. So, thank you very much for joining me for my way too long, ridiculous rig rundown. I know this is a silly rig. Leave some comments. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. I mean, is it a bad idea to put a dozen pedals in front of a computer with the cheapest USB interface known to man? It probably is, but for the amount of money I have wrapped up in this rig, you'd be surprised. Petey's cheap, what can I say? I wanted to talk a little bit more how I got into this virtual guitar rig nonsense. I was in Salvation Army, and in the back with the electronics, this little black box, and I'm like, what is this thing, And it had like a monitor jack and some USB, and I'm like, this is a little computer. So I bought the thing, I brought it home. It's called a Xeno HD, and then Spyron, and they're like $585 little computers. So I got that thing going. I'm like, you know what, I could squeeze that in my rack and do virtual guitar. So I spent like a week getting all this stuff set up and monkeying around with it. I got the interface, and the day that I was done with it, I went back to Goodwill, and they had this computer here, which is, it's called an XPS 700. And the retail on it, when it came out in 2006, they went for $4,000. It's just this beast computer. I think it's a stainless steel chassis. The box weighs like 35 pounds. It's this unbelievably cool case, and it's just massive. But on top of all that, ooh, looky. So yeah, it lights up and everything. It's got hunk of giant fans inside of it. Just an absolutely fantastic case design. But it's not ATX, it's some proprietary, you know. So I'm guessing the motherboard's gonna fail. It already geeks out with the standard keyboard jack. I'm running USB keyboard and I've been fine. So I'm trying not to push it too much. I won't do any video editing or anything on it. You know, I'll just try to baby it along. And when I do have to put a new motherboard in here, I'm gonna have to hack it a little bit, which is no big deal. But I do not run these LEDs when I'm running the computer. Normally I don't run the LEDs because they consume a lot of power. It's got like a 750 watt power supply in it. For a stock computer, it's just amazing. It came with some trick Sound Blaster card. I don't know, I don't even use it. I'm using the Line 6 stuff, so. But yeah, that was probably the best, you know, resale thing that I'm gonna run into. Hopefully that's not the best. That was a great deal though, so. Virtual guitar, 29 bucks. Well, I paid 20 for the interface, so I lied. Thank you very much. Stay tuned, I got some exciting stuff coming up. I say that too much. I've got some horribly boring videos coming up. Actually, it's gonna be a really cool thing coming up. And some cool pedal demos. So thank you for all the views, comments, and subs. Peace, and keep on hacking.